Hey guys, thanks so much for tuning in again today. I'm here with a review on Covergirl's new Outlast Stay Fabulous 3-in-1 foundation. And I have this in the color 832 Nude Beige, and I am wearing it today. I'm super excited to be reviewing this foundation because I'm just going to say right off the bat, I absolutely love it. This is the first CoverGirl foundation I've used since the CoverGirl Nature Luxe foundation came out. So I can kind of talk about it in regards to what that foundation is like. But all in all, I never really used CoverGirl foundation. So when I originally saw this come out in the drugstores, I was really initially drawn to it because of the pump that it has. Which is obviously just a great feature for a drugstore foundation. It's really hard to find foundations that have pumps. It had a really awesome color range, and then I'm always just drawn to any product that says it's long wearing, and that is one claim of this product. It says lasting power of primer, coverage of a concealer, and blendability of a foundation in one, shine free. So as you guys know, I have normal to oily skin. Don't really have any dryness, really just a normal skin with some oiliness in the T-zone and my chin area. So I really gravitate towards those more longer wearing, typically medium to full coverage foundations, just because the oil in my skin can really break down products, and I can start out with a really glowy, lightweight foundation, and by the end of the day, you know, there's just nothing left on my skin. So I was really excited to give this a try. I'm a huge foundation junkie, as you all know, and I also love a lot of drugstore products. So I was really excited about this. So I'm just gonna kind of get on into the review. This is just based off of my experience working with the product. I watched a lot of different reviews, but as I said, I have normal oily skin, so all of this is only gonna relate to you if you have normal oily skin. I personally don't have dry skin, so I can't speak to those qualities, but if you are interested in finding a review with someone with dry skin, there are tons of reviews of this on YouTube, so definitely just check out other reviews. For me, this provided medium to full coverage. It's definitely very buildable. Depending on how much you use, you could have it be a lighter coverage foundation, but right off the bat, it definitely has a good amount of coverage. It's not going to be a super sheer or dewy foundation. I am wearing it today, so as you can see, the finish is definitely a satin matte, very velvety finish. Right off the bat, it reminded me of my Tarte Amazonian Clay Full Coverage Foundation in terms of the coverage level that it provided, and also that kind of satiny velvet finish, which I personally love. If you have dry skin, you might not like that matte finish, but I personally love it as someone with oily skin that really likes to kind of get rid of that dewiness. It's great for me. So you can definitely layer this to probably be up to a full coverage foundation. Right off the bat, it's not going to provide as much coverage as Revlon Color Stay, but the good thing is that not only does it have a pump, it's very inexpensive, it's about $10, but also the consistency of it is a lot easier to work with than Revlon Color Stay. It doesn't dry as quickly, it's not as thick and paint-like. It's definitely a very creamy foundation, but it will run on the back of your hand. So I'm gonna go ahead and pump a little bit of this out so you can see the consistency. Again, this is the color Nude Beige, but as you can see, it's not moving a ton, but it is beginning to kind of drizzle and drip down my hand there. So it's very creamy and thick consistency. It's not that really watery, blendable type of foundation, but it isn't so thick and creamy that it's the consistency of like a BB cream or something like that. The great thing about this foundation I found is that it does feel fairly lightweight on the skin. It's not going to be as lightweight as some of the other foundations I've reviewed, like Revlon's Nearly Naked or the Naked Skin or Chanel Vitalumiere Aqua, things like that. Those very water-based, very liquidy, very runny foundations, it's not gonna feel as lightweight as that. So you can definitely feel that there is some product on your face, but if you set it with a powder, you know, all of the kind of dewiness is evaporated right away, and it really does become pretty lightweight, I would say. Personally, I haven't been bothered by the feeling on my skin, but The thing that I really like about it is the finish. It definitely has a gorgeous, gorgeous finish. One that I think is really hard to find, especially in the drugstore, because all the matte finish foundations I've used from the drugstore are typically a mousse-like consistency, like the Revlon whipped cream makeup or like the Maybelline Dream matte mousse makeup. And I personally prefer a liquid foundation with a pump. So this is a lot more user-friendly for me, but also kind of providing that velvety matte finish that I really love. So the finish of this, I think, is very similar to the Revlon whipped cream makeup, very similar to Laura Mercier's Silk Cream Foundation, very similar to the Tarte Full Coverage Foundation, as I mentioned. So all of those kind of thicker, more matte finish foundations. But what I love about this one is because it's more liquidy, it's easier to blend. You can use a number of different types of brushes with this one. You can use like a Sephora number 55. You can use a Sephora number 56 like this. You can use a Real Techniques buffer brush like this. You could use a stippling brush like this. There's so many options because the consistency is really forgiving. It's not like the Tarte foundation where it's so thick and so heavy. You would never be able to push this product around with a 55. In my opinion, I wouldn't go there. But, you know, that's just my experience. Also in my experience, this foundation has controlled oil really, really well. It's definitely not going to give you that 15-hour, that 24-hour coverage like the Revlon Color Stay or maybe the Maybelline Super Stay, but it definitely will give you a good 8 to 10 hours of coverage, if not more, depending on how oily your skin is. Another thing I love about this foundation, it doesn't slide around your face at all. Sometimes when using my Tarte Full Coverage Foundation, I can see that it's kind of sitting on top of my skin. It almost has this sliding around effect, and I didn't feel that way at all. This will begin to fade and the coverage will begin to dissipate, but it won't get oily or slide or move around at all on your face. As far as being transfer resistant, I don't know that it's transfer resistant, but I would say it's better than a lot of the other foundations I've used in terms of not transferring as much because it does have that more matte finish to it, that more powdery matte finish. It's not gonna like be as slick or slide off, or you're not gonna notice it on your fingers or your phone as much as a dewier foundation. In terms of the finish being comparable to the Nature Luxe foundation, I think it's somewhat similar, but again, more of a liquidy consistency than the Nature Luxe foundation, which was more of a thick, almost mousse-like consistency. But the weird thing about that one is it was almost like a light to medium coverage foundation, whereas this is more of a medium to full, but it had that thicker feeling to it, which I personally like this one better because it's not quite as thick. I think the packaging is a little bit better. I love the pump, and this one for me controls my oil a little better and just gives me a little bit more coverage. I have a lot of freckles that I like to cover up, a lot of uneven skin tone and redness and things like that in my skin that I like to cover up. So I really love medium to full coverage foundations, and quite honestly, I would not usually buy Revlon, or not Revlon, excuse me, I would not typically buy Covergirl foundation, so I have been floored by this, really, really blown away. If you are normal to combo or oily skin and you're looking for a matte, medium to full coverage foundation with a pump from the drugstore that is $10, go get this. It's really awesome. The smell doesn't smell like any other Covergirl foundations. It doesn't have any synthetic scents like the Nature Luxe has that cucumber scent. It doesn't have that clean scent of some of their other foundations. It doesn't have that really painty chemically scent like the Color Stay. It does smell a little bit like foundation, but not to the point of being disturbing or offensive in any way. Really, I think Covergirl hit the ball out of the park on this one. I would highly, highly recommend you check it out if you have normal to oily skin. I think it's incredibly wearable. I don't think it's too cakey for everyday use or too much of a full coverage foundation look. I think if it's a little too much coverage for you, you can just experiment with how much you're using, how you're applying it. You can use it with a dense wet sponge, a wet brush, with a more lighter coverage foundation brush, or use it with your fingers to really blend it out, warm up the product. So I think it's super versatile. I've been really happy with it, and quite honestly, it kind of blows some of my high-end foundations out of the park in terms of how it makes my skin look and feel. I caught myself just kind of like looking in the mirror a lot today when I was in the bathroom at work and just so impressed with how my skin would look throughout the day, and I really don't get that a lot. I do have pretty high expectations, so I really like it. In terms of being a primer and a concealer and a foundation in one, I don't really like that marketing claims. I think it was maybe Covergirl's way of trying to market something like a BB cream where it's an all-in-one product but not actually create a BB cream. But in terms of being long wearing and being a great everyday foundation or even a night out foundation, I really like it. I would not ditch my primer or my concealer by any means. So if you're looking for a product that will replace those two, this is probably not going to be it. But it's a great foundation if you're just looking for a foundation that's going to be long wearing, oil controlling with a matte finish that is really inexpensive. So I still used an under eye concealer today. I still did top this off with a powder. I don't think that this is so mattifying that you can't use a powder, and I like to use a powder to set it because you can kind of feel a dewiness on the face unless you set it with the powder, and I personally don't like that feeling. I think this takes a while to dry down, sort of similar to the Revlon Nearly Naked. This one also took a long time to dry down, which I don't like to wait for my products to set. I just want to dust some powder over them and be out the door. So if you don't like that kind of dry down time or that dewiness or that wetness feeling of foundation on your face, I would just recommend partnering this with a powder. I've been using my Revlon Nearly Naked powder with it, and it's been working really well. I think a number of powders would probably be fine. Any kind of go-to daily powder. So all in all, I really like it. I would highly recommend it. If you have any questions about it, just leave me a comment below and I'd be happy to get back to you. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.